So the 4-5 matchup in the Western Conference is set. We have the 4th seed Phoenix Suns against the 5th seed Los Angeles Clippers, and there's a lot of storylines going into this series. Mainly we have the Russ versus KD storyline. We also have the KD versus Kawhi Leonard storyline. But one I feel like is very underrated and no one's talking about is Russell Westbrook against Chris Paul. I really feel like whoever wins this battle might end up winning this series. A lot of people are viewing Phoenix as this juggernaut of a team. I understand it, I just don't see it. And one of the biggest reasons I don't see it, if you go back to last year when the Suns lost to the Dallas Mavericks, a big part of that loss was the Mavericks were relentless at attacking Chris Paul. In the last few years, up into that series, Chris Paul has kind of been skating on his reputation. And whether it was Luka, Brunson, or Dinwiddie, they were attacking him every opportunity they got. That's one of the reasons I'm not quite sure the Phoenix Suns or Chris Paul is going to be able to hold up for a legit championship run. And I feel like Westbrook is going to put a ton of pressure on Chris Paul to keep up in that matchup. And even if there's cross matchups, like the Clippers, Norm Powell and Eric Gordon aren't really the players you should fear, but in this matchup, those are also going to be tough matchups for Chris Paul. Those are players you can't help off of, and those are players that might be able to overpower Chris Paul. So yeah, it's crazy I'm saying this, but I actually think the X factor to this series is Chris Paul on defense. Now let's go to the other side of the ball. One of Westbrook's flaws can be sometimes overhelping, sometimes doing too much on defense. We've seen it kill his teams at times when he's playing someone like, let's say, the Warriors, where if you overhelp or you gamble, you're giving up an open three to one of the greatest shooters of all time. Historically, Chris Paul hasn't been one to actually punish you for doing that. But this season, Chris Paul has taken 4.4 threes a game. I know that's not a ton, but it's the most by far he's taken as a Phoenix Sun. In the last game he played in, Chris Paul took 12 threes. And I know we don't think of Chris Paul as a non-shooter. Honestly, when I see Chris Paul taking a pull-up three, I think it's going in more than like some of the greatest shooters of all time. Chris Paul is definitely capable of hitting threes, but his catch and shoot numbers have been progressively going down, at least as far as attempts. But this season, 55% of Chris Paul's three-pointers have been assisted. Last year, that number was at 41%. And to put it in context for you, since 2015, that number had been at 33%. The last 7 years before this season, only 33% of Chris Paul's three-pointers had been assisted. And this year, that number is 55%, the highest number since his 3rd year in the league. And you guys might be wondering why I'm stressing that is because turning down open three-pointers is sometimes even worse than just missing them. That's something we've seen from someone like James Harden. How many times do we see James Harden have a wide open catch and shoot opportunity, but instead he has to put it on the floor and do a step back? Chris Paul was very, very low-key one of those players that would just turn down open three-point opportunities. And now with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, who are going to be kicking it out to a wide open Chris Paul, he can't turn those looks down. And I think it's very encouraging if you're a Suns fan that this year he has not been turning down those looks, and he's shooting 37% from three. So can Russell Westbrook stay attached to Chris Paul? Can he help and get back without getting burned too many times from Chris Paul catch and shoot threes? I think very, very quietly, Westbrook versus Chris Paul is going to determine this series. I think KD and Kawhi are going to go head to head. They're really going to cancel each other out. Who am I picking in this series? I'm leaning toward the Clippers. I think Westbrook's going to have a very, very big series. If Paul George was here, I would definitely pick the Clippers just because that volume of three-point shooting is something the Phoenix Suns sometimes have trouble matching. But if the Suns are going to win this series, I'm not saying anything profound here. I think it's going to have to be Devin Booker leading the way. And you know what? I'm going to go with the Phoenix Suns here in 7 games, even though I really want to pick the Clippers. I really want to root for the Clippers in this matchup. But I think Devin Booker is just going to be a little bit too good where the Clippers don't have anyone that can match that outside of Kawhi Leonard. But I'm going to go Suns in 7 begrudgingly. I really want to pick the Clippers, but I'm going to go Suns in 7. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Who do you guys got winning this series? Who do you guys got winning that point guard matchup? Let me know all that down in the comments below. I'm out. Peace.